where the infrastructure struggles to keep up with the demand that's placed on it. I think here we have another 10,000 condo rooms have just been finalised and built, and that puts a humongous amount of pressure onto the infrastructure that's already here. There is a great focus. The Litter Club here, we run eco markets, we run eco education fairs, we support other initiatives that are there. So we have a strong eco community here, and it really is just about ensuring that we have integration into the infrastructure that we have. Our host community at Rasada, we're putting in composting stations, etc. We want to show that a small community, is only 40 houses here, that a small community is able to have zero waste go to landfill.
Hi everyone. Today on Now Boarding, I am in conversation with Josh O'Neill, and Josh is talking to me from in Thailand while I am in Barcelona. So thank you so much for joining me today, Josh.
Thank you so much, Payal. Thanks for the invitation.
It's my pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to all that we have to hear from you. So, Josh, let's start with the Litter Club that you founded in 2019. What moment made you actually start the club, and what was the gap that you saw in Phuket that actually encouraged you to do this?
Yeah, fantastic. Great question. Thanks, Payal. My background is in project management, and I was in Singapore on a very stressful project assignment while I was there. Now, I'm a scuba diving instructor. In fact, I'm a PADI staff instructor. And one of the things over the last 10 years before 2019 that I noticed was that more and more our oceans were just getting filled with litter. And on this project that I was in Singapore, I really needed an out. I needed to find something to do. And I just literally grabbed a bag and started picking up litter near the National Stadium at the reservoir there. And it was just essentially me getting outside, but I'm like, wow, Singapore is so clean, but there's actually still a lot of litter to pick up. So it basically started like that, me going out. Now, a lot of Singaporeans looked at me and said, who's the crazy old white guy down there at the water edge picking up litter? This is not done. And within 3 months, I had 30 volunteers join me on a Saturday morning and pick up litter together around Singapore. Now, I moved to Thailand 4 years ago. And when I came here, there were a lot of organizations already doing what I was doing in Singapore. And just as an aside, Singapore, the Litter Club is still running. We do cleanups once or twice a month there. So the team there are still doing amazing things. When I came, there was really no need to establish the Litter Club here in Phuket. But over the last 3 years, gradually the problem has got worse. And because it's a very transient place, many of the organizations who were doing great things when I arrived have since moved on. And it was just time to launch it here. And I work very closely with another organization here who works up in the north of Phuket. And we're just doing great things. We're now working with a host community at Ratsada, and we're looking at stopping the plastic getting into the ocean to start off with and creating a community model here. But it was purely driven by what I saw in the oceans and what I saw getting worse. And apart from that, it's just great exercise. It's fantastic being outside, and it just helps you integrate into the community. So, Payal, that's the background.
Okay, thank you for that, Josh. Now, you've run hundreds of cleanups with thousands of volunteers. So, what is a metric that you wish more nonprofits reported to keep communities honest?
Yeah, so again, a very good question. We have catered to over 6,000 volunteers here. And this is here, even in Malaysia and now Thailand. Now, we have done hundreds of organized cleanups. We've done lots of unorganized or disorganized cleanups, and just people out and about on the beach. And we really need to ensure that nonprofits, etc., out there are telling us not only what they're picking up, how much they're picking up, but also what they're doing with what they pick up.
Yeah.
And educating the community where they're picking up, what to do with it before it ends up in the ocean. So it's really about, we need good metrics, and we do this globally as well, where we're identifying, obviously, these are the main contributors to litter and the main manufacturers who are creating this waste. But it does also come back down to an individual level. What are we doing with our waste? It's important to note, because volunteers are our lifeblood. Getting people enthusiastic and involved, getting them on the beach on a Sunday morning when they could obviously be doing something else, is always a challenge. So we celebrate the fact that we've had over 6,000 volunteers give up their time to come and do this. But metrics are important. Reporting is important because it continues to highlight the issues that we face as part of the crisis that we're facing.
Yeah, I think it's very important education of, one is, even before the waste goes into the ocean, to not have that happen. That's the first step. And if it does happen, then what do you do next? Because you're polluting the ocean and there's so much waste that goes into it. And then, of course, like you mentioned, the nonprofits need to also get back and say, okay, this is the waste we've collected and this is what we've done with it. So there are 3 steps to it. Yeah, which I completely understand. It can be very challenging, but I feel collaboration with parks and with local governments can also be extremely helpful. Have you faced challenges while you've been collaborating, or are they very forthcoming? Have you felt any kind of holdback, whether it's the local government or whether it's the parks? Just a little bit of insight on that.
Again, thanks so much. Yeah, this is an exciting question for me, because Singapore is very focused on waste management and they do it incredibly effectively. Now, when I started there 6 years ago, we used to take our little trolley and our bags and our pickers and meet down in the park, and we'd take our donuts for when we'd finished and we'd turn some music on, and it was great fun. Now, the NPS, National Park Service, there now has set up clean-up centres, that they actually have small containers there which have a padlock and a code. And if you're going to go and do a cleanup, you just open this container, and inside there's pickers and bags and gloves and all the rest of it. And you take what you need, and then once you've finished, you bring it all back, obviously not the bags. But they also have designated areas. You let them know you're doing a cleanup, and they will ensure that they come and pick those bags up and take them away. And providing that kind of service is absolutely phenomenal, because people don't have to worry about lugging things all around Singapore to do a cleanup. In Thailand, the infrastructure is obviously not as up to date as Singapore. So we do take our own trash bags and pickers and everything along with us. And we look after our volunteers by getting them hats and sunscreen and mosquito spray. Here, we do struggle sometimes with the local municipality when it comes to actually disposing of the waste. Now, we'll take all of the recycled materials away with us and give them to the recycling centres. That helps in a small way to fund our operation. But we do struggle sometimes. Now, this comes down to a little bit language barrier, a little bit they have a quota, and in Phuket we have quite a serious issue around how much waste is generated here compared to how much waste we can incinerate. So the infrastructure is just a little bit behind where it should be. But they're working on that at the moment. So a lot of it is going to landfill, and there is a little bit of resistance in the sense of we don't want to pick up more than we can handle. So if we do a beach cleanup, we do try and advise the local municipality that we're doing it there, and get them involved. They're pretty good. They do the best they absolutely can, but the infrastructure is just not there to support in the same way that Singapore is. If the world could have a whole lot of containers with cleanup kits in every park around the world, Wow, life would be amazing. So we
Yeah.
have something to aim for. This is an
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Yeah, I think Singapore, kudos to their foresight, and they're always thinking ahead. And for them, it's so important to, one is to be sustainable. They do so much to try and, especially when it comes to the environment. I think Singapore is leaps and bounds ahead of the rest of the world, and which is so incredible. I think there's a lot to learn. Okay, so you do teach and coach students at a university. I'm not sure what the name of the university is, but what surprised you about the attitude of the youth when you talk to them about ocean health?
I guess the most surprising thing comes back to the individual and their awareness as to the impact that they can have on being destructive towards our ocean environment or helping in some way. Now, I lectured at Prince Songkhla University here in Phuket on to two different classes. And one of the things that I pointed out to them was most of them had brought their recyclable container along with them, but some had single-use, I've got one here, some had single-use plastic bottles as well. And I said, please put your hand up who has a single-use plastic bottle. Now, they didn't want to do that, obviously, but they did. There was maybe 10 people within one class that put that up. Now, when I started to extrapolate that and say, now here's 10 people in this classroom during this period, and we have 100 classrooms in this university, then that 10 becomes 1,000. I hope it becomes 1,000. My math's not that good. And then once we take that, and that's one period, and then we have 5 periods over day, that becomes 5,000. And then we multiply that times a week, and that becomes 35,000, and that's just one university. And you could just see the light bulbs going off in their head and thinking, wow, that's a lot of plastic bottles. And sometimes it's that whole physical thing. And sometimes, especially when we talk about the environmental crisis that we're in at the moment, it's really about bringing it back to the individual choice. This is not a faceless issue. This is a global issue. But I always talk to people that it's really a collection of small human choices. Everything we choose to do, that bottle we buy from 7-Eleven, that reusable drink container that we buy and continue to use it, these are all choices. We have a choice every time we do it. If we throw our litter out and we don't tie the bag up correctly, and somebody throws it on the truck and it spills open and then it's on the ground and then it blows away, etc. That was my choice to do the right thing when it comes to the bag. If I put broken glass in there and somebody gets injured, this is really understanding. And it's not blaming anybody because we all do the right thing. Sometimes we make the wrong choice because we're not aware that we have a choice or we're not aware of an alternative to that choice. So I try and bring it back from, because otherwise we get overwhelmed. We get overwhelmed. We see all of these images continuously of mountains of waste and litter everywhere, and we just go, it doesn't matter because there's nothing that I can do. But if we bring it back to that individual choice, and when I showed the students that bottle and then we started counting and then we started extrapolating that, and then I'm like, I can't count any higher because my maths is not good. I don't know what it would be in a year. And it was just like oh, okay, there is something that I can do as part of the collective to make a difference. We try and keep it positive and fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and especially for the young, I think that's important. So that if it's fun and if it's got a positive twist to it, then they tend to be more proactive and they probably tend to get more motivated because the understanding is been communicated to them in a very sort of fun way. Phuket, as we all know, is a tourism hub and it's a big tourism hub. So we were talking earlier about Barcelona, but I think Phuket is really gets people in from literally everywhere. So What is the one ask you would make of hotels or tour operators that could help cut litter at source? Because I think that is also very important to, I'm sure there is awareness, but if you had 3 months in which for them to cut a lot of the litter out of their space or wherever it goes into, what would you say to them?
Thank you so much, Pyle. It's ecotourism here is 100% and it's moving towards 110%. And this has
Wow.
grown ever since COVID. And the fact that we are producing around about 1,400 ton of waste per day. Our incinerator, anywhere between 1,100 and 1,400, our incinerator can burn about 700. So the rest is going to landfill. So the real focus is how can we have zero waste to landfill? How can we separate before we go? Now, here, with that focus, a lot of hotels, especially you've got organizations like the Phuket Hotel Association, etc., who run going to an event coming up on the 1st of September, where they have speakers, where all of the hoteliers get together, and there's, I think, over 100 hoteliers that are part of this particular association. Then there's the Thai Hotel Association as well. So they do really work very hard because they understand that the tourist market is looking for somewhere which is eco-friendly. Now, as I said, we still have some issues when it comes to catching up to doing that. But many of our main chain hotels are doing the right thing when it comes to segregation, when it comes to creating composting. We have hotels here that have marine biology stations actually set up in jellyfish tanks so that when people come, they get to experience, they go out and snorkel on the reef, etc. So the focus is there, but it's keeping, as you say, it's an incredible hub here. And the infrastructure, look, we have the same situation in Bali and other islands, which are beautiful places to live, where the infrastructure struggles to keep up with the demand that's placed on it. I think here we have another 10,000 condo rooms have just been finalized and built, and that puts a humongous amount of pressure
Yeah.
onto the infrastructure that's already here. There is a great focus. The Litter Club here, we run eco markets, we run eco education fairs, we support other initiatives that are there. So we have a strong eco community here. And it really is just about ensuring that we have integration into the infrastructure that we have. Our host community at Rasada, we're putting in composting stations, etc. We want to show that a small community, there's only 40 houses here, that a small community is able to have zero waste go to landfill. They're already recycling very well. They already have education and recycling bins, etc., in place and signage to support that. The next is that we do composting. The next is that everything that ends up going will not be going to landfill. Clothing and things like that is sent to our opportunity shops, etc. Overall, the island has a great focus. And it does come back to that, I guess what I said before, that individual choice.
Yeah.
Are we doing the right thing? Sadly, many of our tourists don't do the right thing. They come, they see somewhere as dirty, and they could just go, if it's already dirty, then it's okay for me to add to that, which is sad. And again, infrastructure plays a part in that as well.
Correct. And then that's where, like you said, individual choices make all the difference. So now, what about funding? Because you mentioned that passion before profit, right? So one is, where do you get the funding from? What is the model there? And the second is, how do you keep, it's all very well to have thousands of volunteers, but would they not have a burnout if they are, yes, the motivation is to clean up, and the motivation is, of course, the environment and how we need to protect it. But for young people, isn't there more to it than just that, or you're seeing it differently? That's one. And how do you manage the funding?
Okay, goody. Two questions in this one. Let me address the funding because that's
Okay.
always the kicker. We can't have mission without margin. We can't have passion without profit. I learned that in Singapore. I was earning great money. When I walked away after 2 years, I realized I personally spent about 50,000 Singapore dollars to fund the Litter Club at that time. But we had a great time. I can't complain. Now I'm not generating as much money. I have to be a lot more responsible when it comes to that. Some of the ways that we do our funding here, obviously we have some local sponsors and supporters who help us on a regular basis with small amounts of money. That's one of the reasons that we started the Phuket Eco Market, because then stall holders and people coming in give us donations, etc. We also run the Phuket Eco Education or Eco Ed Fair. And again, that brings people in, they give us donations, and that helps support us. We run Second Life, which is our next upcoming project, which will be donated products because Phuket is so transient. Many people come and leave. They don't know what to do with their goods. They can't sell them. They can give them to us and we can sell them on to make sure that they're reused or repurposed in that way. So our model really is we can't do anything unless we get funding. And we do work and collaborate with people like Phuket Hotel Association, like local theatres, etc., to be able to help us generate funds. We make some funds off recycling of products. We're running a little caps off campaign, which is the plastic cap on the bottle at the moment. So yeah, we're getting better at generating funds, if that makes sense. When it comes to volunteers and keeping them enthusiastic and engaged, I studied conservation psychology. So I learned that it is not about the beach cleanup. It really is about getting out in nature, meeting new friends, building a community, having fun. Now, myself and my partner, we do a program called Clean and Fit, which is a CSR program, which is another funding source for us. He's a Zumba instructor. So essentially the Clean and Fit is, hey, come to the beach and let's do some Zumba for 20 minutes and warm up. Let's listen to the music. Let's get out in nature. And then, oh, by the way, here's a bag and a picker. Just run around and pick up some rubbish. Come back, we'll sort it out. Listen to some great Latin music. Have something to snack and enjoy your day. Meet new friends, learn some new stuff and things like that. So we never make it about the beach cleanup because I've said 1,000 times, cleaning a beach is not sexy. It's not what I put on on the top of my to-do list on a Sunday morning, I can tell you.
Yeah.
But if I know that I'm going to go out and meet new people, have fun, have some laughs, listen to some music, and we always play music, listen to some music and just have a ball, people gravitate to that. And for the last 20 years, maybe over 20 years, I've been part of volunteer organizations. And I know and understand that sometimes people will turn up and they'll only come once. And then others will turn up for about 4 weeks and then they'll be burnt out. You'll never see them again. And then you've just got the crazies that'll be there every week for years and years on end. And then you've got all the ones in between, if that makes sense. So you always have to realize that's what they want to do. That's the life cycle of a volunteer organization. Don't have any expectations, that you're going to end up with 30 people coming this Saturday, because you might end up with 60 or you might end up with 6 or you might do it by yourself. And I have to tell you, I've done many cleanups by myself and I loved everyone, right? Not that I don't like people around me, but it doesn't matter. I do it because I love doing it. And I find that people, they want to do it because they love doing it and because they love that I love doing it. I don't know what that is, but it's about having fun, Payal. There's never a negative spin on us going and doing a cleanup. Never. It's always an opportunity. We're happy that people littered. Shouldn't say that. Don't edit that out. We're happy people littered because it gives us the opportunity to come together, hang out without phones, listen to music, and just have a good time.
Yeah. And you're also benefiting the environment around you while you're listening to music and having a good time. So, Josh, I'm going to leave you with just one question, which is one habit that you changed this year. Any one habit that you can think of.
Wow. I think the one habit or the one thing that actually relates to what I do was I was always focused on cleaning up beaches. And when I started the Litter Club here, we got a host community and we went into that community. It's all Thai people, there's no foreigners there. And I started working with a very local community, not hanging out with other foreigners doing a beach cleanup. The biggest thing that happened was I saw this community go from feeling overwhelmed to feeling a sense of pride. That every day they post something in the line group where they've been out and cut this or trimmed this or cleaned this or made a difference. And I'm there at least once or twice or 3 times a week in the evenings. I go do a bit of gardening, do a bit of whatever. I've seen this community change, and that's changed me. It's made me realize that it's not just about a Saturday for an hour going up and cleaning a beach. It's about being involved on the ground in a community. And I'm learning Thai, they're learning English. Actually, I'm really bad at learning Thai, they're better at learning English. And that's what's changed. My focus has changed just from doing a beach cleanup to really connecting. And that's transformed me as well, because I've seen that the problem is not as big as what I thought it was. Every weekend going and cleaning up a beach and then waiting till the next weekend and it was just dirty again. This is a slow yet steady progression to being zero waste to landfill. And it just makes my heart swell to see how dedicated they are to making that happen in their community. And it is not a rich community, I can tell you that.
Yeah. And then once you feel, and that two things here. One is that it's the integration with the local communities, which I think is so important. If you choose to live amongst people who are like you and you're a foreigner in their country, I think it's so important to be able to integrate. And what better way to do that than to try and speak their language? That's one. And two, be hands-on with them. And as you're mentioning, this is such a small community and they come from a certain background, but they have included you in their lives because you have genuinely into made an attempt and an effort to integrate with them. And I think that is very important. So once you see a result in this community, you can also then start looking at other smaller communities and work with them. And I think that's amazing, Josh. And it is something that I truly believe, and believe you when you say that it has changed you as a person as well. And anyways, what I know you started with cleaning up litter on the beach, but I think you've evolved and you have, using that as a benchmark, you've moved way ahead. And all that you're doing is with purpose. And I think that is so important. So you have to be proud of yourself, Josh. And and I really appreciate this conversation. And I'm sure the listeners and viewers will also have a big takeaway. And I'm sure there's going to be impact. So continue doing what you're doing. And I'm sure you'll be touching a lot of lives as you go along in a positive way. And at the same time, helping with the environment. So
Thanks, Mayo. I really appreciate it.
thank you, Josh. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much. Kapun Krab from Thailand.
And adios from Barcelona.